All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to talk about what treatments you should advertise as a med spa owner. And now, when I say advertise, today we're specifically talking about when we're advertising to complete strangers. So people that have never heard of you before. This is typically going to be on things like TikTok ads, Meta ads, so Instagram and Facebook ads, YouTube ads, Google ads. These are where we are displaying messages to people that have never visited your clinic before. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the characteristics of the best treatments for advertising, the characteristics of the worst treatments for advertising, and then I'll show you some examples as well and a few other things. So my name is Josh Steinberg. I'm the founder of Wellness Leads. We're currently spending tens of thousands of dollars per month advertising for medical spas. We also book their appointments for them. We book thousands of appointments. I'm not going to waste you with a whole bunch of details there, so feel free to take a look at our website to see more case studies of results that we've actually gotten. You can find the links down below. So without further ado, what make characteristics of good treatments for advertising? So starting off here, we are typically going to look for treatments that have low or no product and consumable costs. The reason for this is because when we are advertising something on Facebook or Instagram, we want to put something in front of a complete stranger that is so enticing and so interesting that they would stop scrolling and respond to it. And I think that most of the time we underestimate how many advertisements people are actually seeing on a daily basis. If you scroll on Instagram or Facebook, you're typically going to see an ad every like third or fourth post. And so let's say that you scroll on average, I don't know, 5 posts in a minute, or let's just make it 6 posts just to make the math easy. If you scroll 6 posts in a minute, that means that you're also going to have seen 2 ads. And that means that in the course of scrolling for a single hour, you're going to have seen like 120 different ads. And I know that the people that respond to med spa ads are typically seeing dozens of ads specifically from med spas and other aesthetic treatments and skincare products, so on and so forth. And so we need to put something in front of people that is immediately enticing and interesting. And in order to do that, the number one mistake that I see people doing is they want to advertise treatments that have very high product and consumable costs. And what that means is that you have to advertise your treatment at a much higher introductory price. And put simply, if it is such a high price, people are just going to continue scrolling and they do not care. And we're going to talk about in this video as well how to get rid of the tire kickers, the people that were just looking for the cheap thing anyways. But that is the number one mistake that I tend to see is people want to advertise the super expensive stuff, and that usually just screws them over. They have to spend way more on ads. Their cost per lead goes way up. And so what we want to do is we want to focus on the treatments that have the lowest or just no product or consumable cost, because it's typically going to be easier to create something that would get somebody to stop scrolling in the first place. Thing number 2 here is that it requires multiple sessions. And so what we want to make sure of is that we are advertising something that has a natural path of ascension. And so in other words, somebody comes in for one treatment, but it is highly obvious that they're going to need multiple treatments. If you advertise something like a one-off facial, where it's something where people kind of see it as like, oh, I'm just coming in, I'm getting this one time because it's relaxing, or something like a massage, for example, a lot of people go and get those things just one time, just as like a relaxation thing, and they have no plan of getting multiple treatments. And quite frankly, like if you get a massage, most people don't really need massages on a frequent basis. There are people that do, of course, but most people don't. And so we need to advertise things that naturally require multiple sessions. Thing number 3 here is that we want to advertise something that has the shortest amount of time possible in between treatments. And so as an example, let's just take Botox. We absolutely advertise lots of Botox campaigns for our clients, but there is a little bit of a longer time period between treatments. And so you might wait 2, 3, 4, upwards of 6 months in between treatments. And so the time in between is much longer. We tend to see that the treatments that have the shortest amount of time in between the treatments usually provide the best results the fastest, and most people are just looking for the quickest results, to be frank with you. And so with that said, we usually want to pick those treatments because it's just easier to advertise on the front end. Number 4 here is a clear path to the next sale. So this is similar to requiring multiple sessions, but we want it to be obvious to them, the person who's opting into the ad, that they are likely going to need multiple treatments. If we take something like a hydrofacial, it would probably be best for people if they come in and get multiple hydrofacials over a period of time. But a lot of people see a hydrofacial as the type of thing that you get one time for like quick rejuvenation and then you don't ever need it again. Whereas something like laser hair removal, for most people, it is widely understood that you're going to need multiple sessions. Same thing with like body sculpting. Most people don't think you're going to get one body sculpting treatment and then you are never going to need another one again. And so we want to make sure that the path to the next sale is clear, not only for you, but also for the person coming in. The 5th thing here is a fast perceived win with low perceived risk. And so I paired these two things together. But what this means is that, yes, we do want something that requires multiple sessions, but we don't want to pick something where it's like, hey, you get the first session and you're not going to actually see results until 6 weeks or, a month from now or something like that. Because it's very difficult to advertise something where it's like, hey, come in and get this treatment and you're going to get the thing that you want from it in a very long time from now. It's a lot easier to advertise things where the time between treatment and result, or at least some noticeable result, it doesn't have to be the end result, just some noticeable result. We want to make that as short as possible. And then also low perceived risk. When I say risk, we're talking about financial risk, and we're also talking about downtime. We're talking about pain, all of the different things associated with the treatments that you provide. And so we want to advertise something ideally that has little to no downtime, little to no pain. And then also on top of that, isn't something that's going to seem like a very big investment on the front end. A big mistake I see a lot of people make is they want to advertise something that's like $500, $600, $800 on the front end. And that usually just screws you over, because most complete strangers see something that is $800, like let's say you want to do like PDO threads and the first treatment is $800. Most people see that and they're like, okay, well, I've never been to this company before. Like, I don't know if I even like them yet. I'm not going to invest $800 into one of their treatments. And I know that for you, you might be like, oh, well, that's a really great deal. Like, we're giving them such a great deal. But ask yourself this: when is the last time that you were scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and you clicked on an ad that was advertising something for even more than $500 and you bought it on the spot? Maybe it's happened once. I certainly have never bought anything for $500 or something that was being advertised for $500, $700, $1,000 on the front end. But it's not super likely that is even going to happen. And so we just need to be realistic about how people actually consume content and consume advertisements. And then the sixth thing here is most people need to be a good candidate of this treatment. And so this is another big mistake that I've seen before, but like I've had clients before who are like, hey, we have this very niche device that is like for this specific type of acne, and it's only really relevant for like a very small percentage of the market, but we want to get more patients for that. Very, very difficult to advertise that on a wide scale unless you have a massive budget. Right? And so we want to make sure that the things that we're advertising are applicable to most people. That doesn't necessarily mean that like you can't advertise something like body sculpting, because it's like, oh, not everybody wants to, change their body in one way or another, but we want to advertise things that are going to be applicable to most people. Now, what are the characteristics of bad treatments for advertising? Pretty much the opposite of what I just explained. And so, like I said before, if you have a high product or consumable cost, very difficult to make something on the front end that a complete stranger would even be interested in responding to in the first place. If it's only like a one session type thing where you come in, you get it once, and that's all you need in order to see the result, also not that great for advertising, because it's very difficult to make the economics work for that type of thing. If someone comes in and just gets one treatment from you and it's not that it doesn't bring in enough revenue for you, then it's going to be very difficult to cover your advertising costs, cover your product and consumable costs, and still have profit left over afterwards. If the time between sessions is super long, that's also not going to be ideal, because it just takes too long for them to see the result that they're looking to see. If there's an unclear path to the next sale, so if it's obvious to you that they're going to need multiple treatments, but to them it's not as obvious, that's a difficult thing to advertise. And then if there's a slow perceived win or high perceived risk. So again, if it takes a really long time in order for someone to see the result that they want to see, or if the amount of money required to get started, or if the pain is super high, or the downtime is a really long time, very difficult to advertise. And then also, if few people are a good candidate, like I was saying before, if there's just a small amount of people that would actually benefit from the treatment in the first place, typically going to be a difficult thing to advertise. Now, let's get into some actual examples of what this could look like. And so I'm gonna do this by things that are an absolute yes that you can advertise, maybes, and then no's. And so for the yeses, typically you're going to be able to advertise things like laser hair removal, laser tattoo removal, simply because yes, there are product and consumable costs like for something like laser hair removal, but it's usually small enough, and people tend to understand that you need multiple treatments, that it makes for a really great introductory promotion. Low consumable body sculpting, and so a lot of the times it's going to be like energy-based body sculpting devices. These are usually great because product and consumable cost is basically nothing. And also you need multiple treatments in order to see the best results. Same thing with skin tightening and rejuvenation. So some of the energy-based skin tightening and rejuvenation that doesn't have a ton of product and consumable costs, usually people understand you need multiple treatments, and so it makes for a great introductory promotion. And then also basic microneedling, you can run some decent promotions with that as well. We don't want to do RF microneedling in this case just because the product and consumable cost tends to grow. But usually basic microneedling is going to be your best bet there. Now, as for the maybe treatments, injectables are a maybe. And now there's some nuance with this here because, like I said before, we run plenty of campaigns specifically for injectables, mostly going to be Botox and other neurotoxins. The thing is with injectables is that they're very well known, and so they're pretty easy to advertise. People know what it is and they understand. But with that said, there's obviously consumables that are required for Botox, and so sometimes the economics can get a little bit murky. And then on top of that, the saturation is extremely high with Botox, and so every single person on your block probably not only has injectables and Botox, but they're probably also pretty heavily advertising it as well. And so your introductory promotion that you're running needs to be a little bit more competitive. Now, with that said, our clients that have been running injectables promotions that do the best with them and typically have been running them for the longest are also very good at getting people into either memberships or cross-selling them into other skin tightening treatments. Typically, we see that the clients of ours that are able to do those two things are the ones that run these types of campaigns. And basically, we kind of see the Botox campaign itself almost as like like the gateway drug, so to speak. It's like just to get people in the door so that you can have the conversation, and then from there you can show the value and the benefits of coming on a more consistent basis, or potentially getting other treatments that would be better suited for what they're looking to do. And so injectables can work, but there's a little bit of nuance there. Hydrofacials are a maybe. The only reason is because, again, they're pretty well known, but they're often seen as to most people as like a one-off type treatment. It's like I get it one time and then I don't need it again, or I'm going to wait a year until I get it again. And so it's a little bit harder to like quote unquote sell that on the front end. IPL, the reason that I put this in maybe is because not everybody is a candidate and it's a little bit more seasonal. Now, if you're in a place like Arizona where there's a lot of sun all the time, something like IPL or like redness or rosacea, those types of things tend to do a little bit better all year round. However, if you are in a more seasonal place, then maybe this is a good seasonal campaign that you could run, but it might not be the best all year round. Cool sculpting, the only reason I put cool sculpting in here as a maybe is because of the consumable cost. It's very well known at this point. People understand that you need multiple sessions, but the issue is that there is the high consumable cost. And so it's difficult to create a promotion that gets a complete stranger interested enough to actually come in and see you. And then laser skin resurfacing, kind of similar, but also on top of that, downtime and pain are a little bit more significant with laser skin resurfacing. And so it's harder to quote unquote sell on the front end just because people see that there's more risk, or they perceive that there's more risk with something like laser skin resurfacing. Now, for the ones that are no, like these are just campaigns that we personally don't like to run as much. First off, PDO threads. The reason for that is because they're a little bit intimidating. Like I've seen videos of the PDO threads, and it's like when I see it, I'm like, I don't think I would want to do that. And so it's a little bit harder to like quote unquote sell it on the front end because of that. And then also, yeah, it's just not low friction. Like I said here, like it's not as low friction as some of the other things. You can't say like no pain, no downtime with something like PDO threads. And then there is also a much higher product and consumable cost. So it's difficult to make an irresistible promotion. Most facials are going to be a no for us most of the time. The reason for that is because their facials are very easy to sell once, and we have absolutely run and are running facial campaigns right now. But the issue with facial campaigns is that most people see a facial similar to getting like a massage or something, where basically they're just going in, it's like a relaxation thing, they're going to get a quick glow up, and then they're going to like cool off on it and never need it again. And so facials they're kind of like a no, but they're leaning towards a maybe. The only reason for that is because if you are really good at cross-selling into skincare products, for example, then you could absolutely make a facial campaign profitable, but it's just a little bit more difficult to create that system. And then high consumable body sculpting. So the intro offers are simply just going to suck because the consumable costs are so high. And so you're going to be going out into the market and being like, hey, like $500 first treatment, or $500 off a package. And we've just found that promotions like that do not work very well. And then also Morpheus 8, similar reason, high consumable costs, difficult to create an interesting enough promotion. So now you might be wondering, okay, well, does that mean I can't advertise the maybes and the no's? Well, you absolutely can still advertise the treatments here that fall into maybe and no. And also, I do want to say here, this is not an all-inclusive list. There's obviously way there's way more other treatments than what I have here, but hopefully I've given you the characteristics that you can kind of categorize the treatments that you provide based on what I showed you before. You can absolutely still advertise these other treatments that I'm mentioning here. I personally just wouldn't suggest using them in advertising to strangers. I've tried to run campaigns for all the things here, with the exception of injectables, which we do have a lot of success with. Most of these I've had a difficult time getting traction with. The simple reason is because when we're advertising to strangers, they just don't meet the characteristics that I mentioned above. And so on top of that, we tend to like to use these types of treatments when we're advertising to existing patients. So let's say that you have like a big email list or you have like a text list or something like that. These tend to work a little bit better for your existing patients because these people already know, like, and trust you, and there's a much higher likelihood that they would engage in your with your business again at a higher price point than what they started off at. And so let's say somebody came in for like a $97 introductory promotion. Much more likely that that person, if they came in, had a great experience, maybe got a package, much more likely that they're going to be open to potentially like a PDO threads or like a cool sculpting or whatever it might be. On top of that, a lot of these treatments also are really great to bundle into your memberships as well. Something like a hydrofacial, where it's like you should probably be getting these more consistently, but people don't really know that. Really great to throw in as like a perk in a membership of some sort. If you want to advertise these to strangers, then I beg that you please understand that you're going to need to do much more complex marketing. And so if you want to create a campaign for like cool sculpting, for example, then I would highly recommend that you create tons of educational content. You have a really solid appointment setting process. And so you're really not letting any leads slip through the cracks. And you need to have a much larger budget for these other treatments as well. In general, typically bigger upfront commitments just simply require more and better marketing. And so if something like cool sculpting isn't necessarily something that you can just do like an introductory promotion with, then you're typically going to need a very like educational process where you're basically having people consume all this content and learn more about why cool sculpting is the best thing for them. And then on top of that, you're going to need to have that really good appointment setting process, simply just because like you require a larger commitment with cool sculpting than you would with like maybe one of your energy-based body sculpting as an example. Now, I know you're saying, oh, but the low quality leads, Josh, you're telling me that I should just be advertising these lower product and consumable cost type treatments, and I should do it at like a lower price, and we're just going to get all these price shoppers. And maybe you even worked with an agency who told you that they were going to weed out all the price shoppers, and then you didn't really see that happen at all, and they were basically just booking in anybody with a credit card and a pulse. Here's the thing about low quality leads. First off, you should watch my other videos because I've made a lot of videos on how to weed out lower quality leads. But second, with a proper process that actually educates people, so it actually takes them through a process where you educate them on the treatment, it properly sets expectations so nobody is showing up thinking that they're only going to need one treatment, and it filters out the bottom feeders, so it completely just rejects people that are simply looking for a quick deal. And it also books the good fits in with a deposit directly onto your calendar, then you could literally advertise just about any of the treatments that fit the characteristics that I mentioned before and sell lots of packages with them. So yes, you've probably worked with an agency that said they're going to filter out all the bad leads, and put simply, they probably just didn't do that. Like they were probably just calling your leads, and their call team was booking anybody with a credit card and a pulse. But if you have an actual filter process where you are legitimately filtering people out and turning some people down, then you can absolutely advertise any of these treatments, and you can sell lots of packages, get lots of the right types of people in the chair who understand that multiple treatments are necessary in order to see results. And they understand that this 197, 149, 199 introductory promotion is not the be all end all that's going to get them all the results. So with that said, if you'd like us to build out a process like this for you and for your business, and you'd like 30 additional appointments per month, deposit paid appointments per month that actually show up, and you only pay us for the ones that show up and pay you first, then hit the first link in the description below, book a demo call with us. I'll show you exactly how it works, and we can explore if we'd even be a fit in the first place. We simply don't work with everybody, and so we need to explore that first. But I hope this video is helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.